Before this video starts, if you enjoy this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. And real quick, for the third time, I wanted to promote my Last of Us Part 2 review video that I have over on my film/video essay channel. I put a lot of work into this video and I really care about it, so if you want to see me not be a sad boy, go give that a watch. Today we are diving into a topic I'm surprised hasn't really been talked about before, at least not on NBA YouTube as far as I'm aware, and that is, were the Big Three Miami Heat a disappointment? I came into my NBA fanhood at the peak of the Big Three Miami Heat's dominance. These three as a unit were fantastic, and once they figured out their system, they also low-key helped move the evolution of basketball with small ball and three-point shooting. The hype for this team could not have been any bigger. LeBron even shot himself in the foot by suggesting the team could win 8 championships in a celebration of the trio being created, which did not help when he fell on his face in the 2011 finals, but this team had a lot of expectations, and they were expected to obliterate the NBA. And yet, after just 4 years together, which in itself could be viewed as a disappointment, they won just 2 championships. Not 5, not 6, not 7, 2. Yeah, from what LeBron suggested, this team absolutely disappointed, but when you consider the context of what happened with this team, were they actually really disappointments? There were so many things that happened outside of these guys' control that really led to them not being as successful as you would like. But regardless of that, was that still a disappointment? Well, let's find out.
Absolutely incredibly with the acrobatic alley-oop.
The Big Three Miami Heat had a bit of a weird start. There was initially an issue between LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, because even though LeBron was obviously the better player, Dwayne Wade had been playing for the Heat for 7 years and was the face of the franchise. And both of these guys were at pretty much the peaks of their careers. Both of them were superstar caliber players. LeBron was #1 in the league and Wade was certainly top 5, but LeBron was afraid of stepping on Wade's toes, being that he was in the house that Wade built himself. Also, this team at this point didn't have an identity really outside of these three. There really wasn't much structure to this roster. It was really just like, hey, we have 2 top 5 players in the league and another guy who is an all-star. This should work out. And to be fair, it did pretty much work out. At a certain point, talent trumps fit, unless that fit is just monumentally bad, and in this case it wasn't even close to that. So as a result, this team made it to the finals, but you all know what happened. LeBron James shit the bed. Now, there are no excuses for him performing as badly as he did, but there were a few structural problems with this roster that contributed to this performance, as well as the dynamics with him and Wade that hadn't quite been figured out yet. See, in this series, Wade was fucking phenomenal. In fact, I don't think he's given enough credit for how damn good he was in this series just because they lost. I've even pondered the question, is it good for LeBron that the Heat lost that title? Because if they didn't, he'd have a ring where it looked like he was carried, because he really was being carried just to a loss. Wade averaged 27, 7, and 5 on 54% shooting in that series. Like, goddamn. But this Heat team was seriously lacking in shooting. Dwayne Wade could not shoot the 3, Chris Bosh was not shooting 3s yet, Joel Anthony was their fucking starting center, the dude who averaged 1.6 points on 28% shooting in the finals. Oh man. And Mike Bibby was the starting point guard. He could not shoot that series. Mario Chalmers and Mike Miller off of the bench were the only shooters. And of course, the Dallas Mavericks built a perfect defense to stop James. So even though, yes, it is still ultimately on LeBron James for how he performed, this was a perfect shitstorm to lead to what happened. So it was because of the many issues that were exposed in this final series that LeBron and the Miami Heat made a lot of adjustments. I don't know the exact details of this, but basically Wade talked with LeBron and was basically like, dude, you are the guy. Go be that guy. And that helped a lot with the overall dynamic of this team. LeBron was fully unleashed on the Miami Heat. They also added a bunch of shooters. Chris Bosh himself started taking threes, and LeBron really just added a lot of polish to his game that made the team even more dominant. It's the reason most people believe LeBron in 2013 is the best version of LeBron, because he was at his peak athletically while having the most polish to his game that he'd ever had to that point. But with these adjustments and LeBron no longer playing like a scared little girl, this Heat team had their best individual playoff run. Now, they did run into an issue with the old-ass Big Three Celtics, but as soon as LeBron put on this face, everything was all good. They met a young OKC Thunder team in the finals, and though it was just 5 games, it was closer than people give it credit for. 3 of these games, the Heat won by just 4, 6, and 6. But the OKC Thunder didn't really have any kind of a chance, and LeBron James won his first championship as well as his first finals MVP. At this point, the dynamic and direction of this team was fully realized, and it felt like this was a correction to what happened in last year's finals. So with everything looking good, the Heat won 66 goddamn games in 2013, with LeBron coming 1 vote away from being the first ever unanimous MVP and being second in Defensive Player of the Year voting. And they ended up struggling a bit in the finals versus the San Antonio Spurs. The series went to 7 games, but of course in Game 6, Ray Allen hit a shot that really decided the series. Which I will say for the 1,000,000th time wouldn't have been possible if LeBron didn't put up 16 points on 70% shooting in that quarter to get the Heat back in the game. So no, Ray Allen didn't save LeBron's legacy. LeBron saved LeBron's legacy with a lot of help from Ray Allen. But then come 2014, and it's kind of the same matchup, but not even close to the same result. The Heat got destroyed by the Spurs. By destroyed, I mean this series was 5 games, and in the 4 games the Spurs won, they won by 15, 19, 21, and 17. The reason for this is Wade was fully washed by this point. Not that he was a bad player, he just wasn't anywhere close to the superstar talent that he was anymore. He averaged just 15 points on 44% shooting in that series. LeBron averaged 28 and 8 on 57% shooting for that series and 51% from 3, so it really wasn't on him how this series went. But this ended the Big Three Heat that you can't even really call a dynasty, because no one really calls it a dynasty until the team has won 3 titles. So LeBron went back to Cleveland to win one for the land. Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh stuck around for a bit until Chris Bosh got blood clots and Wade really started to decline. So onto the verdict of whether or not this team is a disappointment. Well, I really cannot give you a clear answer. Now, no one would deny that the 2011 finals were disappointing as fuck. The Heat should have won that series, though I don't necessarily think winning that series means they three-peat, because I think LeBron and the Heat learned quite a lot from that failure in 2011. That loss lit a fire under LeBron's ass, which forced him to become a much better player, and also forced the Miami Heat to make adjustments that made them a much better team. But at the end of the day, that is a disappointment. Now, if we look at the 2014 finals, were they supposed to win that series? I don't really think so. Sure, they could have put up a better fight. I'm certain it was expected the Heat would do better than they did. It was not thought that they would lose in the fashion that they did. But no, I don't think the Heat were really supposed to win that title. Maybe that's revisionist history, but I don't think that was the expectation. And I don't know if winning in 2011 allows them to win in at least 2013, because I think if LeBron is the player in 2013 that he was in 2011, the team's just not good enough to beat the San Antonio Spurs. And really the biggest reason why the team won just 2 championships and not 5, not 6, not 7 is because of Wade's knee injuries. Wade never had any big individual moment that led to his decline. It was a small thing after small thing after small thing, which resulted in Wade being like 60-ish% the player that he was by the end of the Big Three run that he was at the start. LeBron signed up to play with a 29-year-old superstar who up until that point really did not have injury issues. So saying they would win 8 titles with as good as they were and at the age they were didn't seem that insane. It still was insane, but it was more reasonable than you might think, because Wade at that point had been durable. Like I said, LeBron had always been durable, and Bosh never had injury issues, and all 3 of these guys were in their late 20s, except for LeBron, actually, who was just 26. Now, was LeBron being ambitious when he said that they could win 8 straight titles? Yeah, I would say so, because that's really hard to do no matter how fucking talented you are. If you put Curry, Clay, and KD together for that long, all in their primes, all young. I still don't think they win 8 titles. That's a lot. Injury is a factor, age is a factor. There are many factors that are outside of the control of the players involved. Charles Barkley said around the time of their little announcement party that LeBron was not really considering just how much work it takes to really win a title. And unlike most of the times, Charles Barkley was right. Barkley knew how much work it took to fall just short, so Bron wasn't really respecting the difficulty of that. He just thought he could pair himself with another superstar and the league would be in the palm of his hand. But this world is not nearly that giving. However, I don't blame players for being disappointments when injury and other factors outside of their control lead to them being disappointments. They can still be disappointments, but I'm not mad at them for it. Grant Hill, Greg Oden, Brandon Roy, and Derrick Rose are disappointments. But that's not a knock on them. Injury just killed it for them. And I guess I'd say that's how I would describe this Big 3 Miami Heat team. They were almost like the team version of Grant Hill. A couple years of greatness, but that's not nearly what you want out of him, and he ends up being a disappointment because of all of his injuries. But you can't get mad at Grant Hill for not being the level of player that he was supposed to be, just like I don't think you can really get mad at the Big 3 Miami Heat for only winning 2 titles. When you consider the context of everything that went down, 2 titles make sense. Are they disappointing? Yes. Now, is that to blame on the players involved and the organization? Not really. So that's my thoughts on whether or not the Miami Heat are disappointing. That is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.